Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. Everybody to my Independence Report. We've got a great show for you today. It is Wednesday, and not that that matters because you might not hear this on Wednesday. You might hear it on any other day that you choose, but we've got a great guest for you today. And she's a published author. Her bio, by the way, is long enough that it would take me almost the entire show to read the bio. So I'm not going to do that. And instead, we are going to talk to Beverly, and we're going to talk about all the things that she's done in her life, including her latest book, which was originally published in Japanese. And then she rediscovered it on her computer one day and decided that she was going to update it, and because she wanted to turn it into an English book. And then she sent it to a friend to have a friend review it, and her friend said, I want to make that's a Spanish speaking book as well. So it's now in Japanese, in Spanish, and in English. Her name is Beverly Kievman Copen, and she is with us today, and we've got her for the whole time that we're together today. So Beverly, how are you?
I'm grand. I am just grand. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. And your neighborhood is in Georgia, is it not?
It is in Georgia. It is.
Georgia is a fine place to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm born and raised in Atlanta, so it's not far from where I used to grow up.
Oh, very, very nice. Because Atlanta, now the thing about Atlanta is that it's hot and humid in the summertime. And I don't know how you guys, of course, you have air conditioning now, but I don't know how they lived there 100 years ago. They were tough.
I don't either. But when I moved to Sedona, it was Sedona, Arizona. It was similar temperatures, but it was a dry heat.
Yes, you can. I worked for a company out of Arkansas, and you could work up a sweat just working from getting out of your car and going to the office door when it was 95 degrees and 90% humidity. Mm-hmm. So but you're all aware of that and stuff. But you have been doing remarkable work for your entire life. Tell us a little bit about, you started out with a modeling agency and you help people, and you've written four books, isn't it?
It's 5 now, actually.
Oh, see, I needed to keep up. So it's now 5. And the latest one, of course, is It's Your Life, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Making a difference begins with, I have an idea. Yes. Let's do this. So we're going to talk a great deal about that book, but let's talk about you, where you came from, and how you got so successful doing so many things.
That's a powerful question, Mr. Kevin. And I guess I would classify myself as an entrepreneur, a photographer, and an author. So it's a simple way to describe something you believe you are. Don't believe I've ever worked for a corporation, a big corporation, as a full-time employee. And so I've never known about a glass ceiling growing up all my life because I had none. And
now, isn't that because you chose not to have one?
And no, I didn't choose not to have one. Oh, you mean a glass ceiling?
A glass ceiling.
Oh, exactly. Yes. That is exactly right.
And so because of it in your world, mm-hmm. It didn't exist. So you didn't put any limitations on what you could do.
That's right. I've always been a goal setter. Even when I was, I think 11 years old, I wrote a goal setting thing to my mother. And I said, I will stop biting my fingernails, and I will stop making fun of other people if they will stop making fun of me. And so it was an interesting thing to see what you thought about when you were 11 years old.
It's amazing that when you're 11, that biting your fingernails can be a cataclysmic event in your life, and it's like it's the most horrible thing that could possibly be going on, and until you grow up a little bit and you realize, oh, that was nothing. You should see what's going on now.
Yeah. So I guess to answer a little bit, tiny bit more of your question is that I think I have mentioned before that I did graduate from high school at 16, and I graduated college 3 years later with a degree in journalism, which have gave me skills and that I have used all of my life. And so early on, I learned the phrase, instead of why, it was why not. And I think the first time I did that with my mother when she said, why would you want to go from the 10th grade to the 12th grade? And my answer was, why not? And so that's been a mantra of mine for as long as I can remember.
So let me get this. So you went from high school and then through college in about 6 years.
Yeah. Yes, I guess so. I graduated college when I had just turned 20.
Wow. See, I spent 6 years to get through high school. I'm kidding. But, that's, but you are, so you're very bright. You were bright as a kid, and your parents must have encouraged you a lot along the way.
Oh, that's a good question. My parents were divorced when I was 12. And so my dad was virtually an entrepreneur, but not around much. But I knew he did a lot of things, a lot of businesses. So I didn't really know, early on what entrepreneur meant. I just knew he did a lot of businesses. My mother, my sweetheart mother, played the piano and for a ballet school, and did not do business, but she was the one who gave me unconditional love and encouraged me. Anything that I did, she was would encourage me, and that means a lot. Unconditional love is incredible if you find it.
It's so hard to find.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that you had a mother that was caring and loving, and also played the piano. Did you play the piano when you were a kid?
No, but I used to turn the pages for her, so I must know hundreds and hundreds of songs.
Wow, that's almost even better.
That's right. If in fact we had still had it's the music things on television of name that tune or something, I could easily name a lot of tunes on 3 notes.
Oh wow, that's a talent all by itself right there.
Anyway, so I just never knew there were things you were not supposed to do in business or in the world. And so each thing that I encountered after the model agency, which I took over when my first son was 6 months old, which I have mentioned that it was something that it was by accident. I had no training. I just took over helping somebody and gave her $1 and changed the name to Atlanta Models and Talent. And within 2 years, it was the largest talent agency between New York and Miami, and I had no idea what I was doing. But it continued to grow. I managed it for 10 years, and then owned it for another 5. And I'm happy to say that in the year 2019, Atlanta Models and Talent celebrated its 60th, that's 60th year in business.
Which for a talent agency, because the talent agency is totally based upon the talent that it signs. They come and they go. And it's all based on relationships and personalities and what you can get and what you can do for somebody. That's extraordinary. And you bought it for $1. Did she come back 3 years later and say, I think I gave you too good of a deal here. Can I have some more back?
No, that never happened.
Well, I wouldn't have been surprised if it had, because she had to recognize, or whoever it was, had to recognize that you had a special talent for that, to be able, because in my interactions with you, You are a very genuine, down-to-earth person who cares about people and is looking out for their best interest. And you smile a lot and you laugh a lot. And that makes you an endearing soul. You know that, right?
I hope so, because I like to give, and I like to give back, and I like to plant seeds along the way, starting an organization or starting something or seeing a need, and nurturing it and seeing how it grows. And I love being a mentor. You know, in the last many years, many times people, just friends, ask me, "Can you help me think through things?" And you never know all along that that's what you're doing, is mentoring someone, because if they feel they can trust you, then they want your advice, they want your thoughts. And so I love that. I think that's one of the nicest compliments a person can receive.
Oh, absolutely. But you see, the reason people did that with you was because your advice was golden, because you knew what you were talking about. So it wasn't they were being generous to you. It was they were actually bending your ear because of what you could bring to the table.
I think that maybe have been the case. I do, but all of my businesses simply have evolved. From the model and talent agency to the next step to the next step. Everything sort of built upon one another, of learning where there was a need based on what your vision is. And I do believe I have a vision that is a little ahead of its time, maybe a couple of years, where I see things where they're going. And that's a gift. That's really a gift.
Oh, that is the gift of intuition, that you know ahead of time what the trends are. But it also takes a great deal of reading and research to look at to see where the trends are going and how it's all evolving, and then picking a particular niche that you think that it's going to feed right into you, and your intuition is right on, because that's how a business evolves naturally. If you're always swimming upstream or paddling upstream against the trends, it's harder to get it going rather than going with the trends. But you got to know what the trends are, right?
Well, let me give you one example, if I
Yeah,
may.
please.
My first book was called Today's Saleswoman. And how did I come to have my first book? It's because I one time answered an ad in the newspaper because I had never done that before. This is after I left the model and talent agency, but still owned it. And I didn't know what next was, and still live in Atlanta, Georgia, without moving to Hollywood or New York or major market. And so I answered an ad in the newspaper for a company out of New York, a very 40-year-old company, Research Institute of America, selling a business service to top management of companies. And I said, "Oh, they had 100 people in the field selling when I applied for the job. There were 3 women. And I said, when I read the ad, well, I've never been in sales, but I can do that. And so I applied for the job, and I got hired. And at the end of the first full year of working with Research Institute, I was #1 in the country in new sales. And the management said, "What are you doing? How are you doing that?" And I said, "I don't have an idea. I've never worked for anyone before." And so they gave me a gift. They created a job for me, going and walking with other people in sales, doing the same thing I used to do all over the United States. And I'd work with them for 2 or 3 days. And I could see that it's not that they were wrong and I was right. It's just that I saw things differently. And so that's part of what I learned along the way. And so at the end of that first year, when I won that award, there were now 18 women in sales. So my vision said, there's an interesting thing happening. And it's the growth of women in sales. So that's what brought on the next phase of the life.
Absolutely. Well, I've spent a great deal of time in sales and was a sales manager and had like 10 or 12 reports, people
Hmm.
they were out selling, and it was selling groceries to restaurants and stuff. A company like Cisco, so it wasn't Cisco, but it was like them. And I can tell you
Hmm.
that when you became number one in new sales, and
Hmm.
your company said, "What is she doing?" It was very rare for someone like you, especially without a background in sales,
Hmm.
to be able to take the number one position. I'm surprised they didn't create a rainmaker position for you, which would
Oh,
be, we used to call it a rainmaker. It would be
oh,
somebody that
yes,
would,
yes, 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 yes. I
yes,
was a rainmaker. Yeah.
yes, and it would be, and also, so I got to ask you, when you would walk into a place to do a cold call, you
Mhm.
had no fear, did you?
No, but we had to make our own appointments. And so the background there was to make a schedule where you were calling people, letting them know why you wanted to meet with them, and then going and doing it. And so that's a very good question because I had to do that on the phone.
No,
Um,
that's even harder.
yeah, and so that I learned how to do that and to ask for the order. That's what I always like to say. And then the minute I got into an appointment, I developed what was called the front end contract because I, as a female, got into an office, usually to a man, with great ease. But then I knew that I had to make sense very fast, or they were going to get that forever call 10 minutes later saying, "Oh, you have somebody who needs to see you immediately," and so I would be out of there. So my front end contract, which I developed, was just telling the person I was going to see, here's what I want to talk with you about, and here's the process. And if you like what I have to say, I'm going to ask you to be my client.
That, by the way, that is nothing short of brilliant. I've worked with lots of salespeople, and one of them comes to mind, who was a very, very nice looking lady, and one time she got into trouble with the company mishandled a delivery to a chef at a country club, and he was madder than a hatter because he had a big conference, and we didn't give him all the food that he needed and stuff like that. So, and her idea was, when I said, "Well, what are you going to do? He's really angry with us," and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll just put on my red dress and go sit on his desk." And that was for, that was how she did sales. But your approach was a lot more professional,
Absolutely.
and
Mhm.
and also, before you left, one of the biggest issues that I've always had with salespeople is they don't get to the friggin' point. You've got to get to the reason why you're there. These
Mhm.
people are busy. They don't have
Mhm.
time to dilly dally.
Mhm.
They want to know why you're there, how you can help their business, how
Mhm.
you can get them to grow, and what you're going to do for them. And you got to do that in the first 5 minutes. That's the contract you wrote, isn't it?
Mhm. That's what I did. And that year, the second year, was when I really learned for the first time, Kevin, what it was that I was doing with the Model and Talent Agency for all those years. What I was doing was selling.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, like I said before, in order to be a successful talent agent, you, number one, have to build relationships with your
Mhm.
clientele,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you have to get them to believe that what you're going to do for them, they
Mhm.
not only can't do for themselves, but you can do it better than any other agency in town.
Yes, and I guess here's a good point I want to make about the book. It's Your Life, Isn't It? Because I have taken all of these experiences and applied them to the present world, relating to, let's just take the subject of selling your ideas, selling whatever it is you're selling. Um, you're selling yourself to your family, you're selling yourself to your loved ones, you're selling your ideas. And so whatever you're selling, you have to learn how to do it better and with a way to help people to accept whatever you're thinking and saying. And so there's a complete chapter in the book on the selling process, exactly how you go about it, with it, if it's to a company, if it's to an individual. And that really was important in Japan. because everyone had to get agreement before they would move forward with anything. And so part of the explanation is very gentle, and how it's getting understanding of what's important to each of you. And so you can get the support that you need within a family structure, or with your loved ones. And so that chapter is a very important chapter in the book, because it not only explains all of that, but more importantly, it talks about the closing of a sale and what it is that you need to do and watch for, and how to ask for the order.
Have you ever thought about being a professor in a sales school kind of setting?
Oh, well, that's what's the next chapter.
Oh, I should have known.
Oh yeah. So after that, I got a lot of publicity on that award, and so after that, women were asking me, "How did you do that? How did you tell us?" So I created a sales course for a small group of women in Atlanta, and I wanted to monitor how they did each week. And so it went really, really well, except for the fact that wasn't economically feasible to do it that way. So I created a one-day course, and I called it Today's Saleswoman. And a friend of mine knew a contact in Chicago, the Chicago Industry and Trade, or something of that nature. And they sold my one-day course, and I presented it in Chicago, and 65 women showed up and one man. And so I went up to the man.
He was the smart one
beforehand and said, "Why are you here?" And so he said, "I'm from Dartnell Institute of Management, and I've never seen a course for women in sales before." I wanted to say, "Neither have I," but I didn't. And so he said, "I'll probably leave at lunchtime." I said, "That's just fine. Let me just turn this off." Okay. Sorry.
Well, that's all right.
Okay.
You're busy. People are after you.
And so he did not leave at lunchtime. He stayed the whole day. Lots of interaction with questions and answers. The next day, he called me from Dartnell Institute of Management, saying, "Beverly, we really like what you've done, and we would like to know if you would do this for us." And so they gave me a contract to do Today's Saleswoman several times each spring and fall for 3 years. And they sent out thousands of brochures all over the United States for these courses. And so, Kevin, sometimes something falls into your lap and you never really remember how it got there, but I remember how it got there. And that was the beginning of the, quote, expertise that I developed. And that's how my first book, Today's Saleswoman, came into be. I got an offer from Prentice Hall to write a book based on what I was doing.
Did you ever think that you were special, unique, more talented than anybody else?
No, I never thought that. I never thought that. I tried. No, I just didn't. I don't know why. It's just my mind was always full of ideas, and was full of wanting to make a difference in their lives, in the lives of the people I was interacting with. And as long as I could keep doing that, I was a very happy person.
How did you avoid the thing that stops most people, which is the fear of failure, the fear of not doing well, that little voice that's in the back of your head that says, "Who the hell do you think you are? Why do you think that you can do this?" And how did you avoid that?
I want to say, this is going to sound corny, but there's a chapter on that very subject in my book. It's called The Risk Factor, about the risk factor. And that's a huge thing. And when I was about to do something that was not being done before, I would do a little sheet of pros and cons for myself. What if it works? But these are things I would see. What are the things if it didn't work? What's the worst possible thing that could happen if it fails? And I had to identify what that was. What was the worst thing that could happen if it doesn't work? And if I could live with that, I moved forward.
That's brilliant. That's simply brilliant, because if you can alleviate the fear
Mhm,
of the worst possible thing that can happen to you,
mhm, mhm.
um, then it doesn't matter. Then you can move forward, and you can be successful.
Yes.
And even if your level of success isn't what you hope for,
Mhm,
you're learning, you're experiencing it, and so
mhm.
you can approach it from a better position, a better place, and do a little bit better next time, right?
Mhm. You can always say, I'm sorry.
Is there a chapter in your book about that? Because there seems to be a chapter in your book about everything else I've asked you so far. I really probably should have read the thing, but it's just out now. By the way, we're talking with Beverly Kievman Copen, and the name of the book is "It's Your Life," isn't it? It was in Japanese, now it's been translated into Spanish and English. Pick it up at Barnes and Noble or any of the booksellers or Amazon, and it's from a remarkable lady who's had a remarkable life, and I invite you to go to her website, which is, oddly enough, Beverly Kievman Copen.
No, just beverlycopen.com.
Oh, BeverlyCopen.com. That's
Yeah,
okay.
easy. Yeah,
That's even easier.
yeah.
And go there and read her bio, and you can look at some of the media stuff that she's done, and you've done a ton of stuff.
I've done a
And
ton of stuff, but they can order the book right from my website.
absolutely.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it. It's a beautiful. What's interesting about that is that book came together, and you sent it to a friend to
Mhm,
to see about getting their opinion, and they said, "I love it. I want to turn it into a Spanish-speaking book."
mhm, mhm,
And then you also had somebody that you knew that was an artist,
mhm.
and you asked them about the cover, and they came up with a beautiful cover.
Well, the cover's mine. It's one of my photographs, but he came up with the cover for the Spanish-speaking book, which was wonderful. This was my sweetheart's son, who's a brilliant artist. But there are 20 of my photographs. Being a professional photographer, the people I asked to help me edit the book and do graphics said, I don't need to do graphics, Beverly. I've looked at your photographs. So they selected the 20 photographs that they thought would be really wonderful in the book. And so that's a part of it.
That's I love talking to people like you, because you are a shining example of somebody that you're human, like everybody else is,
Mhm.
but you didn't take no for an answer, and you got rid of the fear of not being successful, and just kept moving forward. Just kept moving forward, and every step built in your life. And when you get to be a little older, like I am too, and you see how your life builds upon each experience, on each thing that you do, and it kind of blends into the next thing that you do and stuff. If you have the faith to keep moving forward, you will be successful. That's my belief.
Yeah, Kevin, I have to add in one thing that I have talked to you about before, all the pitfalls and the roadblocks that come up, because it happens to everyone. That things that are outside of your control, and that is exactly the main reason why I redid the book for this during the middle of COVID. It's because how do you manage all the things that are outside of your control? How do you manage your life and move forward during that period of time? And that reflected back to the marriage to Michael Kievman. We were married for 10 years, and 3 of those years, he was ill with diabetes and lost first his first leg and then his second leg. And I was in the middle of building a new business based on all the things that I had learned relating to women in business. And I was ready to launch the business. I already had investors, 18 people working for me. And all of a sudden, I'm in that position of saying, my life is no longer my own, because he was about to lose his second leg and more than likely, possibly, his life. And I had to make a very, very, very tough decision to put my business on hold. That means I had to close it down. And that was a great loss. And then I had to help him when he decided he didn't want to live anymore, I had to help him decide that he wanted to do it again. And so that was a very exciting time in life, because there was nothing I could have done that would have been more important. And so I had to reinvent myself after he died, because the direction and where I was going was no longer available to me. And so out of that, while he was still alive, I started writing about what was going on. And I was having trouble writing it when a wonderful friend, I talked with her about an author. She said, the reason you can't write this other book is because you're in the middle of it. And she said, if you can write about the positive way you're dealing with this 3-year crisis of yours, you've got a book. And so I sat down in my private notebook that I never wanted anybody to read. It was for me. I want to run away. This isn't happening to me, et cetera, et cetera. And within 2 weeks, I had outlined a complete book, written 2 sample chapters, called it For Better or For Worse, A Couple's Guide to Dealing with Chronic Illness, sent it to her. She showed it to her elite literary agent, and I had a contract to write the book immediately. And that's what began the next phase of my life.
That's a remarkable story. That's truly a remarkable story. Diabetes is such a horrible, horrible disease, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. It is. They all are, but it is. Yes, it is. And so the whole purpose is helping people. That seems to be my mantra.
Beverly, I'll tell you, I'm of the opinion that is in this world, one of the reasons why we're here is to help other people. Mm-hmm. And that is the highest calling that you can, if you are genuinely interested in the betterment of humanity, mm-hmm. of people and helping people live their lives better, mm-hmm. like your book, it's your life, isn't it? Yeah. If you're genuinely involved in that, then I think that there is a certain wind at your back, and your sales are moving forward because you're doing the right thing and you're mm-hmm. doing it to help people. It wasn't about making money. All this time that we've talked about the stuff that you have done, not once have we said, yeah, and I made a bunch of money from it too, and it was that wasn't the calling that you had, but the money came along with it.
That's such a great statement to make, because I know that so many of my friends who have made a lot of money want you to know that they have made a lot of money.
That is their claim to fame, as it were, but the money is not what it's about. Mm-hmm. It's about helping people.
That's exactly right. I love that. And
you congratulations on leading. And there's going to come a time, and there is for all of us, when we get to depart this coil, and we get to go to the other side, and we get to I can just see St. Peter at the gate saying, Beverly, welcome home. My God, what a life you've led. Thank you for being who you are.
Thank you. I guess at this point, if I may, can I tell your viewers my age?
No.
No. I can make up a number. Age is just a number,
That's right, but they won't believe me. Oh. They won't believe you. No, go ahead.
Okay. They won't believe that I'm 84.
No.
Okay. Well,
you know why?
I got that out of the way.
You know why?
Why?
Because you have got such life in you, mm-hmm. That you have enjoyed the life, and that is what so many people go through this life, and it's you've heard of the Eeyore syndrome. Mm-hmm. The woe is me, oh boy, it's gonna rain today. And my favorite example of that was when you say hello to somebody and you ask them how they are, and they say, oh, not too bad. It's like, what the hell does that mean? So rather than that, you've taken the attitude that the life is an adventure every day, it is indeed an adventure for you.
But I'd like to add something very practical that I have been asked a number of times in the last few months is, well, if I'm feeling kind of down on myself, or I'm feeling lonely because of, you know what, I'm not sure how to get out of it. And the little baby steps you can take. And one is make a list of the people, maybe a dozen people that you know that you haven't seen lately, you don't see very much at all, or that you know you need to get in touch with them, but I can't see them, so why should I? Make a list of about 10 or 12 people that you would like to just send an email to or pick up the phone and say, thinking of you. I just wanted to say hello and how are you doing? Maybe we could meet for coffee one day in an outside setting where it's comfortable and safe. So if you could do that for just 10 or 12 people and think of how that makes them feel. Somebody's thinking of me. Oh my gosh. Maybe those 10 or 12 people would do the same thing for 10 or 12 more other people. And it's a way to take little baby steps to make people who are going through a difficult time, who don't really know how to get out of it, how to do that. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's beautiful. It makes total sense because, and it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We get that little voice in the back of our head that says, "Oh, they're probably really busy and they've got a life and they've got doing this and then,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to hear from me. I'm not worth it, you know."
Mm-hmm.
And so we discount the specialness that each of us brings to the table, and brings to this world, and the reality is that you may find that somebody has been thinking about you and about thinking about calling you, but they were having the same fear you were having.
Mm-hmm.
She's too busy. She won't want to talk, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of that, we need to work with each other like everyone's special. And we really want to be involved with people. And that's really is, and you're getting down to that's one of your gifts is you can get down to the very bottom base of what's needed and be able to describe it well and to put it out there. That's one of your gifts.
Well, that's sweet. Very, very sweet, Kevin, because people who are buying my book, or I hope will buy my book, I want them to come away with feeling like they have specific plans that they've already made notes of while they're going through the book, of how little things that they can be doing can matter to their own lives and can matter to the lives of their loved ones and can matter to planting a seed for someone else. So I want people to come away with an action plan for their life.
And the name of the book is It's Your Life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Making a Difference begins with, hey, I got an idea.
Yeah.
That's, and it is so true. And that book sounds like it, with the number of chapters that we've described in it, you're talking about some of the things that on a very basic level that have made you a successful entrepreneur, and you've never worked for a corporation. You've never had to do the 9-to-5 thing. You always figured out a way to do. Now, having said that, you probably work 9 to 9 sometimes. And
yes.
And it's not that you avoided work. It's that you were more. Your mission was of a different kind. It wasn't about working. It was about creating, and
yes.
that's what's so different. That's what's great.
Yes.
And that's why I really love to talk to you, because you're very special. You've got a lot going on, and you're just 83 years young.
84.
84 years young. And so what's coming next for you?
There's always a next. I make out a list of things that I am wanting to continue doing, things that I plan to do, and then things that I don't necessarily want to continue with, and then things that I hope will happen. Those 4 categories. And I did that in January, and I relook at it, and I'm taking some courses now in a little different kind of writing, which is fascinating, and drawing. And I'm going to give a presentation next week where I live, photography, because I'm living in an environment where they're 55 and over, and I've been posting my pictures, and I get questions all the time about my photography. So I'm joining with another wonderful photographer, and he loves all the equipment and things. He's very, very talented with big boy equipment. And at this point in time, I'm just using my iPhone. And so we're going to have the great difference between his ability to help people who have serious equipment and want to get back into it, and mine, I want to help people who live here who just want to make their pictures better. And so the photography thing is going to be a week away, and it's called Photography Magical Moments in Photography, or Stop the Car Now.
I just love the fact that you're always thinking. You're always thinking about the next thing, and I applaud you for that, because I know from my personal experience there is a point in time in a lot of people's lives when they start to get a little older, and they become less relevant, and people stop calling and stuff, and they tend to fold up their tent and want to go home, and they don't want to continue to do the things that brought them joy when they were younger. And I'm glad that you're not folding up your tent anytime soon. You're gonna go through the tape, going as fast as you can.
I don't know what the R word means, retirement. I've so many people say, "What did you do before you retire? When did you retire? When are you going to retire?" I've never used the word in my life. How can you retire from life?
You can't. You can't. I'll tell you, technically I'm retired, but I'm doing this more. I'm working as much or more than I ever have, because I really love what I do. I love to be able to talk to you. And by the way, if you're listening to this now or in the future, go get the book. It's Your Life, Isn't It? It's by Beverly Kievman Copen, and she is an extraordinary writer. She's also a visionary, and I truly believe that Beverly, one of the things about your book is it's going to be sitting on a shelf somewhere, and somebody's going to pick it up, and they're going to say, "This looks interesting. I think I'll take this home and read it," and it's going to change their life. And I can't think of anything more precious and more anything better than that.
There are certain things that motivate. I don't know how much time we have, but I have to tell you one story, if I may.
You may.
Oh, okay. When I lived in Japan for 3 years, in the early 1990s, and it was an extraordinary experience. I had to reinvent myself then, because I had no job at that point. I was not working. I mean, I had just married or remarried, and I didn't know the culture, and I didn't know the language, and so I was kind of invisible, and so and so I had to reinvent myself yet again. Anyway, so that's when I really studied the culture, and then a couple of years after I came back, I did get invited to go back to Japan to have a program on entrepreneurship. And I was paid to do it, and airfare, zip over from Atlanta, Georgia. Well, sure, we can just zip over. And so
20 hours later.
Yes, exactly. There would be maybe 35, 40 people, men and women, Japanese. And there was a 3-hour program, and I had about 45 minutes on there. Well, I got there, and there were 35 or 40 people, but there were no other speakers. So all of a sudden I had 3 hours. And so because I knew the culture, I knew what I could do and get away with it. And so 3 hours later, the program ended. And a young woman came over to me, introduced herself, that she was from Diamond Publishing. She was an editor, and she liked the way I think, and she wanted to know if I would have interest in writing a book for the Japanese market. And the answer was, of course, yes. It was the first time that publisher had ever commissioned a non-Japanese person to write a book for the Japanese market.
Wow.
So I did it. It took about a year. And guess what I called it? It's Your Life, Isn't It? Choosing the path that's right for you. And so fast, it was published in 2000 in Japanese. And so it had never seen the light in English. So fast forward to a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I got an email from a young Japanese woman, a single mom in New York City. She had tracked me down and sent me a long email. And she said, Beverly, I was in the New York City library and your book just leapt off the shelf at me. Just like you said just a few minutes ago. And she said, I couldn't believe it. And I took it home and I read it. I finished it the next day. She said, I just wanted you to know it has changed my life.
It makes you feel rather humble, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's what that really honestly is what it's all about.
It is
and
what it's all about.
That's why I bring people like you
Mm-hmm.
to talk to people, because there's so much negativity, there's so much hate, there's so much fear,
Mm-hmm.
that when we find somebody who genuinely has risen above that,
Mm-hmm.
not that you haven't had struggles in your life, you lost a husband to diabetes, you've had to deal with life,
Mm-hmm.
but it's how we deal with life that is the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the very end of my book, there's a poem that I wrote called Choices and Options.
Would you care to read that now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that is, I was having a discussion with my son about about choices just yesterday.
Oh,
And
that's
it was
amazing.
like, we get the opportunity to choose how we're going to feel about anything and everything in our life.
Mm-hmm.
If we choose to have a negative feeling towards it, that's our choice. If we
You're
choose
going to want to make a print of this. We'll get my book, and you're going to want to print this out. It's called The Power of Choice.
You go, girl.
Okay. Regardless of your position in life, your circumstances, or the challenges you are faced with every day, you and I have the most important freedoms in the world. We can see, feel, say, study, write, think, or be anything we choose. It is ours for the taking. Every day, in every situation, you and I have choices and options. We can choose to be negative, or we can choose to be positive. We can choose to be angry, or we can choose to be peaceful. We can choose to be resentful, or we can choose to be grateful. We can lash out and say, why me? Or we can reach out and help someone else. We must separate things that are within our control from those not in our control. We need to let go of the ones not in our control and take action on the ones that are. The power of choice is in your attitude. Life is too short, precarious, and fragile. Your attitude is the one ingredient that will turn around your day, your week, and your life. That is your choice, yours alone.
That's Beverly Kievman Copen. And that's the end of the book. It's your life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Get the book. I gotta believe that book will be able to help you. I'm gonna go get it because and I'm gonna give it to my son if nothing else, because it's vital that we understand that we have choices that we can make in life. One of my favorite sayings, Beverly, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but when I wake up in the morning, I say my life is empty and meaningless until I fill it up with whatever I choose to fill it up with,
Mm-hmm.
and I assign whatever meaning I choose it to have.
Mm-hmm.
And if I choose it to have a good meaning and I fill it up with things that make me happy, guess what? I'm a happy guy.
It's a good day.
It's a good day, and I appreciate it. I have I could talk to you all day. I really could, but I'm going to honor your time with us today. And by the way, before we go,
Yes.
I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience that's listening now or in the future anything that you would like them to know?
Just remember to do something special today for someone else. Each day, anytime you're down, remember to reach out and help someone else.
Even if that's nothing more than smiling at the cashier at the grocery store and saying, "Hi, how are you today? It's nice to see you."
You got it.
I drove a bus for 12 years, and there were people that would get on my bus. I made a practice of saying hello to everybody that would get on my bus. And there were people that got on my bus because we're dealing with homeless people and people that have a drug issue and that kind of thing. That may be the only time somebody smiled at them all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe it's our obligation. But that's just me. But I think it's important that we take care of each other, and that and I applaud you and I thank you for doing the work that you're doing, and you're a phenomenal person. You just are.
Thank you. Well, just remember, Kevin, it's your life, isn't it?
Now that's a talent agent coming out in you again. Speaking of which, I would like to make this a career, and I'd like a lot of people to listen to this episode. Of people, do you think that I have a career? I have a future in this business?
What did you just say?
I said, do you think that I have a future in doing podcasts and having people listen to it?
Of course you do. You're wonderful at it.
Well, gee, Beverly, thank you. I'm just kidding around, but it is just awesome having you here today. And can I make you come back on? I can't make you do anything, but will you voluntarily come back from time to time?
Yes, I will be delighted to come back from time to time. Yes,
that would be awesome.
I would be honored.
I would be honored to have you.
Okay.
And I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank everybody for listening today. By the way, go to BeverlyKopen.com. That's COPEN.com. The book is right there, right in front of God and everybody. It's Your Life, Isn't It? It's a life-changing book. It is in 3 languages. I submit it's going to be in dozens of languages before it's all over.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you can go and get the book, and you can find out all about Beverly and what she's done and in her life, and it really is quite extraordinary. She's just one of those people that not only is she successful, you want her to be successful, because the more successful you are, Beverly, the more people you can touch. And the more people you can touch, the more people you can help. The more people you can help, the better off our world is.
Thank you.
And I thank you very much. You wait right there. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of kmmedia.pro. Please visit our website, oddly enough, named kmmedia.pro, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to each other, because each other's all we've got. We'll see you next time.